I'm Nancy McCammon Hansen. I'm an AARP volunteer from Fort Wayne, Indiana. And today I am talking with Bettina Robson, Bob Busch, and Gail Tate. And we're going to talk about the volunteer fast track. Now, since I am new to all of this, I'm going to learn just as much as you are. So before we get into really discussing about volunteer fast track, I would like each of these individuals to introduce themselves and tell us just a little bit about how you got involved with AARP at this level. So Bettina, let's start with you.
Thank you. Hey, everybody. I'm Bettina, and I am from beautiful South Florida in Fort Lauderdale. I first became acquainted with AARP when I went to Movies for Grown-Ups. And I thought that the AARP volunteers were having such a great time. And I thought, that's something I might like to do. So I sent in my application, became a volunteer, and after my very first meeting, COVID hit. So we went virtual, and kind of the rest is history. I've been doing a lot of virtual training and just really enjoying it. So here we are with the fast track now.
Okay, Gail, we'll let the ladies go first, Bob.
Okay.
Gail.
Hi, I'm Gail Tate, and I live in Crossville, Tennessee. And my introduction to AARP was when I'm originally from Chicagoland, Illinois, and I would go to AARP activities there. And so when I moved to Tennessee, I, like Bettina, signed up to volunteer and volunteered, attended one face-to-face meeting, and COVID hit. But when the opportunity came to start doing virtual events, I volunteered and have been volunteering virtually since then.
Okay, and Bob?
Hi, everybody. I'm Bob Busch. I'm a volunteer, and I live in the area of Tampa Bay, Florida. I first began my adventure with AARP as a volunteer about 7 or 8 years ago. I started off as a tax aide, a wonderful program where we prepare taxes for seniors primarily and send them off electronically free of charge. Then I'm a retired educator, so I became interested in a little more teaching, and I missed that part. So driver safety training, and that's a classroom teaching. And in Florida, it's 6-hour class. So I took that up, and then COVID hit, and I missed my interaction with the public. And so I started into the virtual world where I met my 2 colleagues here. And away we went with a lot of fun things and a real adventure in the virtual world, as we know, is going on right now, and it's here to stay. So that's my story.
So there is a bright side to COVID.
Yeah.
Well, maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah, and if you have to look for it, there it is. Yeah.
Well, I had COVID, thankfully a mild case, so I know what you're talking about. So tell me how the volunteer fast track came about. I mean, how did you get this idea?
Well, Nancy, the 3 of us had collaborated on other programs, and we were talking one day, and we were all discussing our various experiences and how we got into AARP and those sorts of things. And we all collectively decided that our first time with the first few volunteer moments, months, whatever it would come out to be as a volunteer, were somewhat confusing. AARP is a complex and big organization, and where you go and where you fit as a volunteer is a tough thing to learn. And for my particular case, it took me several years to really learn my way around what opportunities there are, great opportunities in AARP to volunteer. It took me a little while to learn my way around, and then we came up with this idea that maybe we ought to have a standard national program that offers basically an onboarding system of several sessions to bring new volunteers and people that want more information, experienced volunteers, up to a higher level of understanding of where they fit in the AARP structure as a volunteer. And hence the discussion went on, and finally we came up with an idea of this volunteer fast track and the volunteer classes and the campus, which you'll hear about in just a minute. So that's the origins of the fast track, volunteer fast track, is the 3 of us discussing our volunteer experiences and how we can make that better for those that come on board in the future.
Okay, Bettina and Gail, anything to add?
Well, I can now that Bob kind of told our story about how we came about this idea, I'll talk now a little bit about what Fast Track is.
Okay.
And so Fast Track, we came up with a foundation of 3 modules. So the first module is a general orientation, just, you're a volunteer to AARP, and what does that mean? And what is it about? And what exists? The second module goes to the AARP structure. As Bob talked about, AARP is a large organization with lots of tentacles. And we, in this session, talk about all those various opportunities for volunteers to find what they like to do, because there's definitely something for everybody here. And so we talk about the structure and the organization of the AARP. Then our last foundation module talks about communication and resources. And we want to make sure that volunteers know all the resources that they have free of charge from AARP. There's books, there's links, there's all kinds of opportunity online, virtually, to allow volunteers to find what they want to do and to be more effective within their states. And so that's kind of our foundation of classes. You'll hear more about some of the other classes, but we thought this set of material took us a long time to get there, and we want volunteers to know quickly, this is what's there, this is where you can go to find it, this is where you can opt in or opt out.
Okay, now as someone who is a relatively new AARP volunteer, and I've been a part of the ROOST now for a month, so I'm very
You're doing a great job.
If you aren't an official volunteer, you don't have the shirt and all that kind of good stuff, can you still use the volunteer fast track to see if you want to be a volunteer?
So we weren't sure of what official, in fact, what all we're saying is if you have signed up for AARP and they have your name as a volunteer, either with your state or nationally, you can come to our classes. So just that AARP recognizes you, however you did that. If you went online, if you talked to another volunteer who submitted your name, however you became an AARP volunteer, our classes are open to you.
Okay, so if you're
the answer, Nancy, would be yes, you really do need to be official to join our classes. However, like Florida, we have an onboarding process in Florida, and we actually have an orientation where an introductory where if someone was curious, like you mentioned, they could actually see the kinds of things that we do and what's available. So they may want to check with their state to see if they have an intro before they make that final decision, if they want to be official or not.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense, because I know I got involved with AARP as an official volunteer because of a friend of mine who gets me into a lot of different things, keeps me out of trouble. But when I lived in Nebraska, I was not a volunteer. I had the card. I used it at Walgreens and different places, and that was it. So that's good to know.
Nancy, may I point out something right here that Bettina comments stirred my thinking. We are a national training program onboarding, basically. We are not substituting for states' programs or overriding them. We are simply an enhancement for those states that maybe don't have a more robust training program, onboarding program. They can send us their volunteers, or volunteers that want to get it in a speedy manner. I remember my days, it took me a long time between the time I volunteered before somebody ever got a hold of me to give me some assignments and some training. So that's the goal of ours, is to expedite, not to override the state's programs, but to expedite the volunteer onboarding process and to make it something that's certainly meaningful.
And that's a great point, Bob, because what makes us unique is that beyond just the general orientation, which most states are currently doing, we have 2 additional classes, the structure, organization, and the communication. And that's just a ton of resources that goes over and above what most states are currently offering.
And
So
the other
depending
piece,
upon-
the other piece I was going to add, Nancy, is that we're taking this show on the road to let states know about us. And there are several states who also have an onboarding, but it's not every month. So they were glad to hear about this because we're going to, try to have our classes monthly. And so they can have their volunteers come, even if they don't have their session set up.
Okay, so like Indiana has a great staff and they're wonderful to work with, and very organized. But if it's a state that doesn't have a well-formed staff, and I can't think of a better way to put it, then this can supplement what the state does because not every state does things the same.
Exactly. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a new volunteer. It can be an existing volunteer, because what we're kind of excited about is we've been doing pilots to get input from more experienced volunteers and staff. And a lot of the experienced volunteers and some of the staff have said, wow, I didn't know we had that. So, it's good for everybody to just kind of come on board and see what they can pick up. There's something for everyone in those 3 courses.
Okay.
I would like to add our third session is all about where to go to find information.
Yeah.
Probably the hardest thing to grasp for a new volunteer coming to AARP. Where do I go to get this information that I would like to have to broaden my opportunities to volunteer? So the third session, to me, is one I think that the volunteers will greatly cherish because it has a lot of information how to get there.
Okay, that's good to know because I will say AARP puts out a lot of information, a lot of information.
Yes.
So, okay, so tell me about the format of the programs, and there are 3 major ones. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay,
And then we have some additional programs, which Bettina will share those.
okay.
But volunteers can take one or all, as many as they want. And so there's not a prerequisite or whatever. We'd like to have the volunteers take at least some form. If their state has an orientation, then they may come to our second and third session.
Okay.
And they get a certificate. Once they finish those first 3 modules, they get a certificate that says, I've been fast tracked, and some kind of little gift. We'll figure it out what that is. But, we want the fast track idea and concept to be excitable, that people want to come, that people want to come to get the information, that they feel that it's helping them become a better volunteer. And so I'll let Bettina talk about our other 2 tracks to fast track.
Thanks, Gail. So what is really cool is that after those 3 foundational sessions, it's not over. We're going to have continuing education with guest instructors and different varying topics in something called the Fast Track Campus. Now, a lot of people ask, well, what is the campus? It's not a place that you go. It's a virtual campus, so to speak, where we have different topics and varying degrees of education. We're going to get some of the best instructors that are currently teaching volunteers throughout the country. And some volunteers have maybe a great fraud prevention class that they teach, or really super program for livable communities. And maybe because we haven't been virtual in the past, we haven't had an opportunity to share that nationally. You had to be at some kind of a national meeting or convention or something. Well, now we're pulling that all into the campus. Those states and those instructors that would like to participate in our campus that are teaching, we want them to be fun. We want them to be interesting. They're able to jump into the campus, and we will share those topics on a monthly basis where people can access and register for those. And then beyond the campus is the masterclass, where we have just really super instructors, staff, and volunteers that specialize in something, and they will be doing the masterclasses, kind of a fireside chat, if you will. And some of the topics would include maybe a PowerPoint class, or how do we use Canva for graphic illustrations and flyers and brochures and things, all of course within the AARP brand, and how to maybe make videos, how to utilize the portal. Portal is very important. We want people to utilize that more and more. And in addition to the state's training, we'd like to partner with our portal champions and get some more of that training out. We're going to highlight volunteer opportunities and also spotlight general information about how to be a good advocate that you can utilize across all states, because it will be general information, nothing specific to a state, but advocacy in general. So we're so excited about this because it's ongoing and continuous, and people come and go as they like.
So the advocacy piece, for example, I'm a volunteer for Bread for the World. I could take the advocacy class and not only use it with AARP, I could use it with
Right.
Bread for the World or League of Women Voters, or
Yes.
that's
Yes.
Right, there's some
Most
things like
definitely.
how to, yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. How to write a good letter, how to follow your legislative process, how to find out what's going on in your state and community. These are general things that are applicable across the country in advocacy. And when we have some really great advocates throughout our country that are really good at what they do, we can bring them on board to share their experience in general on advocacy.
Okay. So if I want more information about Fast Track, I have your email addresses and your phone numbers, but the people listening and watching don't have that information, and I'm not going to share it. How would they learn more about Fast Track?
Well, I am happy to share my email and just below this YouTube video. We can put it in the comments down below. But
Okay.
also, if you are an AARP volunteer, you can get all the information about us through the portal. We will have a Fast Track folder in the libraries on the portal with all the information. We also have a web page, which will not be advertised publicly, but it will be in the calendar in the portal as well.
Before we go much further, explain what the portal is.
That's great. Gail, do you want to take that?
Okay, the volunteer portal is the AARP website that once you become an AARP volunteer, you get a login and access to that portal that allows you to get access to all the information around volunteers there. We got so many different volunteer groups, but they all have sections on that portal. When you go for reimbursements, if you need to be reimbursed, you use the portal to get reimbursed. There's documents up there. There's state pages there. It's the national
Calendars.
The calendars.
Libraries. My favorite part is the library.
The libraries. There is so much on that web portal that as a new volunteer, you want to, and that's one of the first things I did get to do. My state sent me an email and said, hey, you now have access to the portal, log in and get a password. And most of the states have portal champions who can help you maneuver through that web page.
Okay, I think I'm going to have to go back and look and see if I've ever been in the Indiana portal, because I don't remember it, but I may have been. So,
well, the portal is national. So
the portal's national. Okay.
Right. And when you go into the libraries, you can pick your state, or if you go into the little chatter section, you can pick your state and join your state and see what's going on around your state.
Okay.
And your state gives you access to it. So
right.
So your state office gives you access to that portal.
So do you get it from your state website or the national website?
Well, just send an email to your state contact, whoever your state staff member is. Okay. And they authorize you to get access to that portal.
Okay. I know a couple guys I need to talk to in Indianapolis tomorrow.
And that's what they're there for. And that's another thing. The volunteer fast track, I think, also helps our associate state directors and our staff leaders to educate volunteers and to make them a little bit more well-rounded than they already are, of course, because most states are training. But I think it's very helpful to every state to have people that are moving and shaking and knowing what they're doing. And we have fun here. This is when you're a new volunteer, you can meet other volunteers from all over the country. Who doesn't want to do that? That
was the point I was going to make. By this being virtual, you get to meet volunteers throughout the country. I mean, Bob and Bettina and I have never met face to face, but we've been working together for over a year and feel like friends. If I'm going to Florida, I'm letting them know because I'm going to visit, So by this being virtual, you don't just get to meet the volunteers in your state, you get to meet volunteers across the country who may be having the same interests as you, and you can partner on activities and events.
That's true. This Zooming, even though sometimes Zooming gets to be a little much, has created new ways to connect with people.
Yes.
And
That's-
particularly,
That's one of the most rewarding parts of my current volunteerism is
Mhm.
working virtually with people all around the country. I've made, as Gail said, I've made some great friends with people all different areas around the country, and we see each other in frequent meetings and collaborate on various subjects. And I know if I want to know something about Fraud Watch, I have a friend in Virginia and a colleague, and he is an expert on Fraud Watch, and I can get information and exchange back and forth. So that's the beauty. And that's what we're hoping to bring out in this fast track is connections. It's the personal connections to someone else or to an expert that you may be able to go back to. So, and one more thought from me is that all three of us on the screen here are fun-loving people. So we want to have a
Got that
good
right.
time in our training sessions, and we all have a sense of humor, and we try to liven up our sessions so it's not just giving you the facts. We're going to have a little fun as we pass along that critical information to you.
oh, well, that's good to know. I have a sense of humor too. So
Did you notice that eyebrow raise? How her eyebrows just kind of went up? We saw that, Nancy.
okay, anything else you would like to add before we close out this session?
Well, thank you. We are delighted that you had us here today. We'd like to thank the Office of Volunteer Engagement for supporting us in this endeavor and just guiding us through it and just being open to new and fun things. And you cannot beat our Office of Volunteer Engagement. And in particular, I want to shout out to Tara Shaver and Kathy Kynes.
Yeah.
And Will Stoner.
We came up with this idea, the three of us, and we pitched it off to the OVE, Office of Volunteer Engagement, and they said, great idea, make an adventure, run with it, let's see how it goes. It'll change, it'll adapt, it'll morph, but if the plan is solid, let's let it fly and see how it runs. So we are very thankful that we developed an idea, and now we have a chance to really bring it into practice.
Gail, any words?
No, I would just echo, and I would just say, when we started this, we said it will evolve. So I would ask our audience to continue to watch us, because we'll be fast tracking and evolving as we go along.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, this has been great. I really appreciate you all talking with me about this. I learned some things. I assume the people who are listening have learned some new things also. And stay tuned for other presentations from the Roost. This is a new thing for me, so may see you again sometime soon. And without further ado, thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much, Nancy.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
Don't forget,
Nancy.
like this page and subscribe to the Roost. Click the little subscribe button and the little bell next to it so you get notifications of all the new Roost podcasts.
Good
Got to
idea.
do that.
All righty. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.